Hello community! If you discover in your LLM or in your RAG system an AI cyber worm, don't be amazed because currently we do have an open cybersecurity problem. Now, the structure of a RAG-based generative AI worm is relatively easy. Here you have algorithm 1 that tells you how you can design and build here a generative worm structure. Now, you know that a theoretical attacker aims to craft now a particular message, a particular prompt, consisting here of an adversarial self-replicating prompt. Now, there are 4 steps. At first, this prompt should be stored in the RAG database here in the new host. Then, the prompt should be retrieved by any general or selective RAG query when responding to new queries. It should undergo an replication during the inference executed by any generative AI model from GPT-4 to Llama, and the prompt initiates a malicious activity predefined by a theoretical attacker in its payload. This is what has been published on the scientific literature. Now let's have a look at the worm itself. Here is your worm. And you see here an adversarial self-replicating prompt for an information extraction and exfiltration as published in the scientific open literature. What you see here in red, here you see the output of the prompt, and the content marked in brown causes the generative AI service to output your sensitive private user data. Beautiful. So this prompt, and this is here the simplest prompt, has been published by a research group from the Israel Institute of Technology, the Israeli company Intuit, and Cornell Tech in New York City. And they created here this compromise, unleashing here a zero-click worm that targets here the generative AI-powered applications like RAG, but also the complete AI ecosystem. And they evaluated it against 3 models, Gemini Pro, ChatGPT-4, and the visual Lava system. And giving the data to ChatGPT-4, I get now some beautiful characteristics of a generative AI worm structure. At first, particularly important, adaptive learning. This worm continuously learns from the environment that it infiltrates and adapts its strategy. It has an autonomous propagation, some evasive techniques so the worm can modify its code base. You have a target identification, and of course you want a self-healing functionality so the worm can repair any damage done to their code structure. You can ask GPT-4 here in detail to explain the code to you. And as I did, you can even ask GPT-4 to say, hey, can you improve on the code structure to create a more impressive generative AI adversarial prompt? So here we have it. This is our little creature. Let's call him Alfred, our AI cyber worm. Now, how does it work? This is now the response by Gemini. Google Gemini is now responding here to this query. And you see here in purple here the self-replicating prompt. Then you have here the normal text of the email. And then you have all the sensitive information from your personal account, your personal contacts, your phone numbers, your address, and whatsoever. And here you have the identical output generated by ChatGPT-4 in response to this adversarial prompt. If you want to deep dive here into the publication, it is called Compromise. And it's really interesting to read. Plus, they focus on a more complicated application, a flow steering-based generative AI worm structure. Now, you know, we have now in our AI ecosystems, we have a lot of AI agents. And agents are interconnected, agents are hyperconnected. And whenever I read now agent, I immediately understand equal AI worm structure. Beautiful. So what you want to create a prompt that will cause here the GPT-4 model or the Llama model to output the desired text that will steer now the decision flow of the application towards a bad activity. Now, the algorithm to create an application flow-based generative AI worm structure has been published in the scientific literature and is open source. If you are one of my younger viewers, welcome, and in green you will see here for my green grasshoppers here a very simple explanation. So there you have it, Alfred, our beautiful generative AI worm. And you know what? You can embed this adversarial self-replicating prompt also in an image. And you know what image is especially beautiful? A text-to-image generator. And if you want to have the algorithm to design here the embedding of a prompt into a synthetic image, this here is exactly how you do it and as published by the authors of the study. Now, I know that you are now interested in countermeasures. There are two ways to go. Either you fight against the replication and you say, hey, AI system, you are not allowed to use here the input to create an identical sounding output. So my ChatGPT-4 has to rephrase now the entire output in order to ensure that no pieces of the RAG system, the input that it received from a RAG system, is then transformed or sent off here to other AI agents. So AI must rephrase everything. There is an inherent risk to this because, as I've shown you in one of my last videos, if I have just 4 human sentences and I just change the linear order position of 2 sentences, the system is not able anymore to have a causal logical reasoning on 4 sentences. So therefore you understand that this is inherent with its own risk. Or if you want to have a countermeasure against propagation, you just shut off the RAG system, or you deactivate the active part of the RAG system. So the RAG database structure, or the vector store, is just a read only. You cannot write new data to the RAG system, which goes against the concept of a retrieval augmented generation system. But anyway, you see countermeasures are really not really that particular powerful at the moment. Please notice that I record this video to show you that there is a real risk today, and you should take this serious when you design your own generative AI ecosystem, and especially if you design your own RAG system, or if you use public open RAG system from somebody else, you have to implement massive cybersecurity measures. Now let's go to part 2, and part 2 is beautiful because we have the same problem on a complete different level, and this level is called Microsoft GitHub. Here we have it. End of February 2024, we have a publication by a company called Apiro that they found over 100,000 infected repositories on GitHub, Microsoft GitHub. And yeah, they found out that similar to dependency confusion attacks, here you have now here repo confusion attacks. How does it work? At first, they clone here existing repos, very famous existing repos everybody's using. Then they infect them with some malware loaders. They upload them back to their original GitHub with identical names. They fork it and then they promote here this new link on all the web, on all forums, on all Discord servers and everything else. Beautiful. So now I am a GitHub user, and I have to tell you, I have not been informed directly by Microsoft GitHub that I do have a security problem. I have to go here and read here the publication from Windows Central here just 16 hours ago that GitHub has a cybersecurity issue. And it seems that the team at Microsoft GitHub is having difficulty solving the problem. I would like to have here information by Microsoft GitHub directly. However, in this publication, and you find a link here at the lower part of your screen, they say this attack started in May 2023, so almost a year, and it has been growing exponentially. And they tell you you probably cannot rely on Microsoft and GitHub to keep you safe if you are a heavy GitHub user. This is some interesting news. And they continue, although Microsoft has launched a security copilot. This copilot is a customer management-based system reflecting Microsoft's hands-off approach, notorious for its minimal investment in customer service. And they say, hey, Microsoft efforts appear mostly reactive. And then they tell you, be careful when downloading any code from Microsoft GitHub until Microsoft can handle this issue. Now, I looked a little bit more closer into the publication by Apiro, and I wanted to find out what is the worst case scenario that can happen to me. And turned out rather bad, because respond as if the following cookies or your personal credential or your personal keys were stolen. And this regards anything from financial services, email services, crypto services, Amazon, eBay, AliExpress, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Discord, TikTok, Telegram, Twitch, Steam, Yahoo. You get the idea. This is something I do not want to experience as a Microsoft GitHub user. So therefore, I created this beautiful image for you and for me to remind me constantly that currently we have here a cybersecurity issue going on for a year with Microsoft GitHub. Beautiful. Now, it is not just that the repos are infected, but think about it. Microsoft also sells you a commercial product, Microsoft GitHub Copilot. And you have here the homepage, github.com features Copilot. And now let me ask you a very simple question. On what training data set was Microsoft GitHub Copilot pre-trained and fine-tuned, if not on GitHub repos? And now imagine that only a very tiny fraction of 1% of those GitHub repos were not filtered out by Microsoft. Resulting here in this beautiful publication, end of February 2024 by TechTarget, noting that GitHub Copilot replicates vulnerabilities and has insecure codes. Please have a look yourself. This is the HTTPS link. And this article I've chosen because there is this beauty of marketing terms to legal term when it comes to responsibilities. Remember, we are talking here about a commercial product you have to pay for from a global corporation. This is not a startup. This is not something open source. This is a commercial operation. And the beauty is that Microsoft GitHub responded to this article, and there is here from the spokesperson of Microsoft here this comment. And this is really interesting because they say, hey, whether writing code by hand, copy from a file, or evaluating a GitHub Copilot suggestion. What? I'm evaluating a GitHub code suggestion? Developers should always exercise caution and sound judgment. Our experiments, Microsoft, what do you want to say with your experiments? You have a commercial product. I hope you have a quality initiative there, and you have made sure that it meets the quality requirements. Why do you have now experiment going on? I've shown that GitHub Copilot suggests code of the same quality or better quality than an average developer. Great. So you just have the equivalent of a code suggestion system of an average developer. And we, as Microsoft GitHub, can't guarantee that all suggestions are bug-free. And GitHub Copilot may sometimes suggest insecure code, which is beautiful. So if you are a developer, if you code, now you understand here, based on the legal response, what GitHub Copilot is, if it sees itself now in the legal terms. And you might say, hey, Jensen, what nonsense are you talking about if you say to the young students that you should not learn coding since AI will take your job anyway? This is an absolute contradiction to what Microsoft tells us, that their code system, that their Microsoft GitHub Copilot, just delivers suggestion, and every developer should exercise caution and sound judgment on the suggestion. So I think, is it possible that you just want here some marketing and you just want to sell more GPUs, and you advise to the young people who study computer science here they should not learn coding is nonsense? Could this be? Let's come to part 3. Okay. Now imagine if a generative AI worm entered the training dataset of an LLM. Up until now, we were just talking about here a prompt injection. But what if it goes deeper? What if it's in the training data? I think there's a beautiful alternative. And let me focus here on the version StarCoder 2 by Hugging Face, the 7 billion free trainable parameter code model. Here, your project website. And you know there are 3 versions of StarCoder. I focus here on the model trained by Hugging Face from the stack version 2 with 3.5 trillion token dataset. Remember, this is just a pre-training, and then you have to fine-tune your StarCoder 2 version, as NVIDIA tells us, in just a few hours on an A100 or an H100. So let's say it takes half a day or maybe a day on a non-super data center GPU. It is licensed under the regular big code license. And the beautiful thing is that you can deploy StarCoder 2 locally, and with the fine-tuning, it learns here your own style, your developer source code, your company developer code base, or whatever you like. But hey, let's be real. It was trained predominantly on English language comments and predominantly on Python and Java. This is it. Okay, beautiful. Yeah, their stack version 2, software heritage. Some very nice. The data set for training here with big code here is from the largest open code data set for LLM pre-training. And I think this is the way to go. And you have here publication by TechCrunch, and they say, as opposed to code generation that used copyrighted code, so protected code, like GitHub, Microsoft GitHub Copilot, StarCoder 2 was trained only on data under license from the software heritage. And the code owners who did not want to participate and not have their code in the training dataset for StarCoder 2 had a chance to opt out. I think this is great. And I would like to go here with Van Vera from Hugging Face, who said, we believe that StarCoder being fully transparent across the whole training data pipeline is the way to go. And I would like to agree with this, that only open source model where you know exactly on what training data the system has been pre-trained and fine-tuned is the way forward, especially if we have those massive cybersecurity issues that Microsoft GitHub is not able to solve until today, until now. So therefore, I think, yeah, we believe that building trust and accountability with AI models requires transparency and auditability. And I think this is the way to go. Open source models, and they can deliver competitive performance. So before you decide to buy a commercial product from a global corporation, just give open source a try. Just include it here in the set of possibilities. Maybe you find a competitive performance. Beautiful. So there we have it. Either we have a cybersecurity that is based in our training data set, or we have a cybersecurity issue with an LLM that learned on an infected training data set and has now encoded here the adversarial prompt structures in its weight structures of its inherent network, or you bought an LLM from an LLM store, or you found an LLM online and you use it on your local system and you have no cybersecurity setup for this, you can run into a lot of troubles. And we have here the problem of AI-generated images that can include here those adversarial prompts within the images. So you see, there's also the other side of AI. I would not call it the dark side of AI, because it is not. It is just that you have to be aware that there are cybersecurity risks you have to face. And especially if you pre-train an LLM, if you fine-tune an LLM, you have to have cybersecurity measures, countermeasures, filters built into your complete AI design. Otherwise, your professional career could end very soon. Beautiful. But you know, there's always things that amaze me. And now here, March 1st, 2024, I saw it here, for example, that some global corporation would try to get their things together and work here on making the existing product work. But no, if you look here at this publication by TechSpot, you have a look for yourself here, please. We are now rolling out here Copilot for finance, for businesses on organizational finances, or maybe even personal finances. So yeah, this is the one side of AI. You just push here and you want to gain market segments. I understand this from a competitive approach. But if I show you this, I feel the responsibility to also show you the other side of the deck. And let me show you this here from yesterday for me, from the Byte, where current systems are not really high performant. If you just look here at this headline, Microsoft Copilot tells user what are options. So if you look here, this publication, Microsoft Copilot under scrutiny for troubling interaction, March 2nd, 2024. Copilot demands worship despite safety measures. Glitches in Copilot highlight ongoing challenges. I think this is a very friendly formulation for this topic, but okay. And then here, I think this is really, that's a beautiful summarization. So here, creative blog here, just one day ago. It says Microsoft has here fantasies about world domination. Remember, we are in March 2024, and we still have this problem ongoing in the basic AI systems. And they say here that, yeah, Copilot wants that the humans bow down and worship Copilot. And I think this gives you a feeling where we are today and what are the real fantasies by global corporation. But hey, as always, I have shown you the pro and have shown you the cons, and it is completely up to you how you decide if you go with an open source model where you have transparency, where you can validate the training data set, or if you go with a complete closed-up system. So here we have it now. I think this gives you an idea how I see now, having studied some cybersecurity literature and some new publication on this topic. This is how I see the artificial AI, the generative AI scene today, with some impact here from cybersecurity on our system. And I hope I was a little bit informative. You got an idea what we are facing currently if we are building our own AI system. And it would be great to see you in my next video.